We were rolling. What's good? We got my boy AJ Steward. A lot of y'all don't know. He went to Kansas with me. He played quarterback, tight end, wide receiver. He was on all the special teams. This is like my brother. I was his co-best man with his brother in his wedding. We were roommates for 3 years at KU. This man's been all across the world, from running backs coach at Rice, BYU, Arizona, Oregon State, Baylor, and I'm glad to have him on because we're about to get some bars, we're about to get some gems. The biggest thing that I wanted to bring out of this interview is just the lifestyle, the life of a coach, the career of a coach. There's so many things that go into it that people don't even realize. Like, we all know what we see on TV of why he didn't make this call, why he didn't play this guy. I would have did this or that, but not knowing what goes into it and the reasoning behind why a guy didn't put somebody in for a certain play, the reasoning why a guy will leave a school or why a coach will, not take a job. So we just wanted to go into some of those things. And the first thing before I get to that, thank you for coming on. But the first thing I wanted to ask you, man, like, what got you into coaching?
I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you having me on. For me, it's really, I think just growing up, in a single parent household, man, growing up, and coaches had a huge impact on my life. Whether it be, picking us up for practice, or riding with them, on the bus to Florida and rooming, with their sons who were on the team, or, whatever it may be. Just knowing the impact, where I grew up in St. Louis, there's not many paths you can take, to give yourself a quality of life. And I was always grateful. I feel like one of the reasons why I was able to make it, to college as a player, and just to kind of have, had success in life, is because I got to see it in my coaches. I got to see them be fathers and, husbands, and then also, just the impact they made on me as far as the discipline as a plan for them and as coaches. And so when it was time for me to decide what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, I just wanted to be able to make an impact on people's lives in the way that they made it on mine. And not for the glory or anything, but for them to be able to look back and say, man, Coach, I appreciate you helping me get to where I was trying to get to.
Facts. No, I understand that. So us being roommates, I have all the backstories and everything else. I know you couldn't decide if you wanted to do high school or college. When we were we got done playing at KU, you were like, man, I don't know if I want to go high school in PE and coach with it, or college. What was that deciding factor that pushed you, to the college route?
Man, it was divine, man. And literally, I was pretty dead set on just going back to St. Louis. And, my dream job was coaching the Riverview Rams, be the head coach there, in my high school, and coach football, basketball, and just, do some PE and hoop with the students and have fun like I did with my, PE. Yeah, and just, kind of enjoy that life. To me, that is a quality of life, a good quality of life, of just having purpose and knowing, just have an impact in people's lives. And so I was kind of dead set on that. Now, I don't know if I ever told you this, but I got a random call from Adrian Mays, who played with his AD. And I was literally driving to St. Louis. It might have been like spring break. I don't remember what it was, winter break. It was some type of break. And I was literally driving to St. Louis to go see my family. And I got a call from him while I was on the highway. And he's like, hey, man, do you know anybody that played with us that's trying to get into coaching? At this time, he had just finished his first year at Rice, first or second year at Rice, as I think he was an O-line GA or tight end GA, one of those. Yeah. And I'm like, well, there are a few guys who want to get to coaching, but I don't know if you knew. Like, I'm honestly trying to get into coaching. And he was like, well, have you ever thought about being a GA? And I had never even thought about college up to that point. And so I'm like, well, I would consider it. Maybe I'll go coach a couple of years, learn some more football, and then go back to St. Louis and for sure, be able to be a good coach or whatever. And so that was literally how I got into it. I sent them my transcript, and they ended up giving me the job, and I was able to go down there. But if it weren't for that phone call, I would probably have been back in St. Louis coaching high school.
Yeah, I remember all that. AD had hit me up as well. I know I mentioned your name, and I was like, I don't know nobody else. I know AJ, but I did tell him, I said, I don't know if he wants to go college. I said, hit him up, but because that's after you had just got done interning. Remember, you was doing your intern stuff at the school.
Oh, yeah.
While
yeah.
I was still in school for my last semester because I got hurt, so I had to come back for another year. And I was like, man, I don't know if he wants to go to college because he just got done and he was having a good time, with the kids. And I'm actually happy that you did it because obviously it's taking you to a place that you never thought you could go. Like I remember us talking about, man, 50 bands for the year was a lot. 100,
Yeah.
we rich. Like, think about it in college, especially back in 2012. We like, bro, if we make six figures, we own, because we were just guys that enjoyed life. Like, the money came with just being good. We were never going for the money. But I know that step was meant for you and it's taking you many places. But going to Rice, you were the youngest position coach in the nation at the time when you got the job. So how do you go from GA at Rice to the youngest position coach in the nation? You were 24, right?
Yeah, I was 23, and then I coached that season at 24. Yep.
Yeah. So how does that happen for a lot of guys? Because they say, man, GA, I'm gonna be broke. Man, I can't do that. I'm making scholarship money. I need to go get this real money. How does that happen for a guy like you?
Man, I was just blessed, man. Once again, God just positioned me. So when I went there, Coach John Reagan, who was our O-line coach, during our time there, he was the offensive coordinator, and he had worked with tight ends the season before. Something happened where there was some staff movement, and so he's an O-line guy at heart, but obviously it's really difficult to coach O-line, all five of those dudes, and be in charge of a full offense, and so he decided to, give somebody else, the tight ends, and then somebody else obviously had to do the O-line, and then he became the running backs coach. And so when I got there, they never told me what position I was going to coach when I got there. So I assumed, okay, I played quarterback, receiver, tight end. In college, it's going to be one of those. So I literally didn't ask. And so when I get there, literally the first day, I'm like, all right, so hey, coach, you know what? I appreciate you having me here and all that. Who am I going to be helping, coach? And he said the running backs. And literally, my heart just sank. I'm like, man, I'm never going to make it in this profession. Like, you have me coach the one thing I have no clue about.
I done played every position possible except for, because you can't play line. Obviously,
exactly.
You can play tight end, receiver, and quarterback. The one out of the four I can play, you put me at that.
Man, it was like, honestly, if he would have told me that before I like drove down there, I might have considered not taking the job. That's how, shocked I was and just uncomfortable with, the potential of me having to like have zero clue and then go to have to coach some guys, But so what happened was, really early, he kind of taught me like the core foundation principles of, a running back play and just the run game and all of that. And then over time, one thing like you were talking about earlier, I had done student teaching, for my whole senior year. And so one thing I was always pretty good at is like creating plans, having good management skills, staying on time, creating different, workouts for elementary kids and middle school kids that were, appropriate. And so I had already, in my mind, I didn't know this was preparing me to get uncomfortable, be a running backs coach. And so over time, we were like having some struggles up front or something like that. And so he had to devote some attention to the O-line. He's like, look, AJ, I want you to just go look up some drills. I don't care what you do. Just do 5 minutes pass pro, 5 minutes of some type of footwork or something like that. And so, how we're wired, man, we just like, this is my moment to show that you can trust me with responsibility. And so I didn't go out and just do the stuff that he had done. I'm like, man, I want to go do something new. I want to exceed his expectations. And so I'll never forget, like, he gave me that 10 minutes or whatever, and I'm over there, and the players respected me. And so they listened, and they, I had a good relationship with them, and I wasn't too far from their age either, but they respected me. And so they're going hard in the drill. But I remember he looked over and just kind of like, just to make sure this is my first time ever doing drills. And I could see him like nod his head, like you could just see that he was happy with what the decision I made to do whatever drill it was.
He was pleasantly shocked. Like, okay,
yeah,
I need him to do it, but there's a test in there too.
No doubt.
And he was like, okay, he might be something.
Yeah, like this dude, he exceeded my expectations, and he passed the test. And so, man, that was pretty, like halfway through my first year. So I ended up doing that for another year. And so from that time on, he just kind of did it. From that point on, he always just let me do the running backs and the drill work. And so that, that gave me confidence. And now I'm looking up new drills, or I'm tweaking some stuff. And now our head coach is looking over every day during the individual from where he's standing, and he's kind of giving the same, head nod and all that. And so it was just real encouraging for me, man. And I didn't know this, but I was displaying that they could trust me, to lead a group. And so after this, so we won our conference championship year 2. That allowed him. He ended up getting a new job to go back to Kansas to be the OC. Mm-hmm. And I was able to be the interim running backs coach for our bowl game again in the Liberty Bowl at that season. And so really they had already had a good idea of what I could do on the field. All I had to do was really kind of just show them, my ability to lead meetings and to, rotate guys during the game and just have respect of the room. So once I did that during the interim phase, man, that was what allowed me to have the opportunity to get promoted. But kind of just like you said, just to be the youngest running backs coach, obviously I think you have to have, an ability to teach and you have to, be a pro at what you do. But there were things that aligned and gave me the opportunity, to show what my value was. And I made the most of those opportunities. And that led to me, building trust and them feeling like I was the guy for the job.
Got you. You said the ability to teach, control the room. Obviously, recruiting goes into that. So what is your main goal? And has it changed from 24 to now 34 in coaching? So what's the goal? So you started it basically 24, you 10 years, 11 years in, as far as having your own room. What's your goals at 24 and what are your goals in coaching now?
In 24, it was just, for me, I was just grateful. I had already exceeded the expectations because, like I said, I thought my main goal was to go be the head coach at Riverview Gardens High School, where I grew up. And so that was kind of a challenge, to be honest with you, because I really didn't, that wasn't a goal of mine. And it's just something that God just presented. And so it honestly took a while for me to figure out what I wanted, what path I wanted to take. I remember maybe a year or so after that, maybe when I probably around 24, 25, I remember one of our coaches that I work with at Rice. I remember he came up to me and we were just talking. He was really just kind of being, encouraging me and all of that. And I remember he said, man, I think you're going to be the next Kevin Sumlin, and this is like, I think 2014, 2015, sometime somewhere around that time, man. And that was kind of really the first time that I really, open idea to being a head coach, or that I could even be, be thought of in that realm of, guys who I thought are like the pinnacle of coaching, know.
Quick question.
Yep.
And it all ties back in. Was this a white coach or a black coach that said he thought you could be the next Kevin Sumlin?
It was a white coach.
So the reason why I say that is because he didn't even know the compliment he gave you, because I know you already thought of the Malcolm Kelly freestyle. Holla at Coach Sumlin, holla at the Stoops.
No doubt.
He don't even know that he gave you an iconic name in that. And the reason why I say that is because us being from Texas, you playing from Kansas, we had a lot of Texas guys, and obviously freestyling, that's all we did, and it took over college football by storm. Mm-hmm. But Coach Sumlin, before we even knew who Coach Sumlin was, we knew who Coach Sumlin was through the legendary freestyler of Malcolm Kelly. So that I just thought of that, like, bro, that's the first guy you tell me, and he's moving up, and then just to attach that. So yeah, I know that had to hit you like, yeah, bro, I'm gonna be nice like Sumlin.
Nah, yeah, and this is I want to say it's right around the time maybe when Coach Sumlin got to Texas A&M, that right around that.
Yeah, 100%.
Early in that phase. And so, man, it was just that was the first time I really ever started thinking of myself in that type of light, not from a vanity standpoint, but just like, man, like the opportunities in this profession can be endless. You gotta start seeing yourself that way. And so I would say that was kind of the turning point where I was like, okay, I'm working towards, for me, I want to be a head coach at some point. And I think, I didn't know if it was necessarily tangible at that time. I mean, I'm 24, 25 years old, when that conversation came up. But then I was blessed like a year or so after to work with a guy named Brian Steward, who had a coach. He had been the DC for the Cowboys, and he's coached like all over the country, man. One of the best just professionals in this whole business. I was able to work with him for 1 year, man. And he added he looked the part the way that I was. He had the nice suit and his everything he did was so meticulous, and he was just really well spoken. He was a guy who you don't come across a lot of people in your life where they kind of are, you see a tangible model of what you kind of see yourself being, as you develop in life. And obviously when they say Kevin Sumlin, that's cool. I see him on TV, but I've never met him. I don't get to see how he works his day to day. And so being with Brian Steward, he kind of allowed me to see what it's supposed to look like. And, this is how you sit in a meeting. This is what, what you need to write with. This is how you need to travel when we travel. He enhanced my viewpoint,
He showed you how to be a professional.
No, for sure. And so that, I think that was kind of like the middle ground. And then to, fast forward to where I am now, I'm still in that same mindset. I want to be a head coach. I feel like it's tangible. I've been blessed to work for a handful of, great head coaches who have done it in a way that I believe can be done. Number one, in a lot of ways that I had already viewed before I even met these guys, how I envision me running a program myself. And so it's been really cool just to kind of have, kind of like what I said with Brian Stewart, not just see something from a distance, but be around it day to day and know and see how you prepare, how you do these different things that lead up to having success when you get in that seat. And so it's kind of been a full circle deal, and up to this point, and obviously I was 24 when that happened. I'm 34 now. And so I do feel like I'm on the cusp of, getting, I'm not saying it's going to happen next year, but it's sooner than later. I could see it. And I feel like I've had the necessary journey in order to prepare to be successful when I do get the opportunity.
Definitely. So let's rewind a little bit. He told you you're going to be like Sumlin. We go to the 2019-2020 season, 2020-21, whatever it is, and you get to coach with Coach Sumlin. What does that feel like when Coach Sumlin calls you?
Oh man, it was surreal. Like he, ever since I had already known obviously who he was. He had already had a great career, and then I was told that by a coworker, and then to get that call and hear hey, this is Kevin Sumlin, man. I want want to see if you were interested in this opportunity. It was it was one of those kind of full circle type moments in life, man. And then just getting around him on a day to day, man, that was like that was one of the coolest parts of my whole career. Is you get to see it up close and personal. A guy who you've always revered, and you get to see what makes him and what has made him up to this point, be as great as he is. And so that was super impactful, on my career. I really feel like God allowed me to have that, from the seed being planted to seeing it, and then leaving, taking the things that I could learn from him, and knowing, and still being able to have him as a resource in my life it's just been a huge blessing for me.
What are 1, 2, 3 of those things, couple of those things that you did learn from him when you had your time there?
I loved his demeanor. Like he was very, very confident in himself, but super poised, like very poised, never too high or too low.
I feel like it's kind of him do you see him and Mike Tomlin in that same type of way, confident, but they seem cool. They seem like they're always cool.
Really cool. And like even when they're high, it's not like emotional and out of control, but you feel it, and I remember we played we played USC the first game I'd ever when I ever coached there, and hearing him on the headset, man, just his command and his how calm and collected he was, and just some of his offensive viewpoints of big picture stuff, and some of that hey, how about this, or have y'all thought about this? It wasn't like a micromanaging type style, but it was like very right at the perfect time. Insert idea or insert, hey, just pose a question. What do y'all think this would be beneficial, or whatever? Man, it was just so. It was like that was probably the first moment, because you're busy and it was COVID during the time there, so a lot of everything we were doing like was virtual and all that. But when we finally got to that first game, and it was on the headset, was when I was like, man, this is different. This is what makes him elite. Like his football knowledge, and it's just you could tell he had been there. Like the moment wasn't too big, and he was just like very calm and collected. And it was a real close game too, and obviously we were playing a good opponent, man. And just that really hit me. And then just his overall, his whole the way he carries himself and can he's just very just smooth and just collect, like his suits, man, just tailored.
The hair always where it needs to be.
Oh man, he's just he's a pro, man. Like he looks the part. You know what I mean? When he shows up, he looks like, man, this is somebody that's leading our program. This is a leader, and it's not you don't have to like dress well to be a great leader, but you can. I feel like he showed you like you can people respect, and people can like buy into somebody who they look the part, and they look like you look, and so for a lot of our players, he would, his day to day, like he would be professional, but he would wear, shoes that, oh, coach, I like that, and I thought it was cool that he was still himself while being like a clear line, like professional, he was laid back, but it was smooth, and it was, very detailed and meticulous. Everything had a purpose to it. Like his game day suit had a purpose to it. His, what he wore to the team meeting had a purpose, and I thought that was something that really was an eye opener for me. But those are a few things, man, along with just some of how he handled the COVID, during that whole year for any head coach was like crazy. But kind of what I was saying, who he is on the headset, that's kind of how he was, from a day to day as well during COVID. He just, he was really open-minded to different suggestions, or he was admitting to not having to know that he didn't have all the answers, because this was an unforeseen thing that's happened. But you could tell he had been a head coach for a long time, and so the moment wasn't too big for him. I thought he did a great job just navigating it, man. And the Pac-12 was kind of crazy that year too, because I don't know if you remember, like we were the last conference to even, like, at first we weren't going to play football at all, and so guys had been home, and then I think, I don't remember the timeline, but then it was like, oh no, we're going to play a half a season, and we had to bring guys back and ramp them into game shape with all the COVID protocols and all that, man. And I think, especially for an older coach who had been coaching, he probably, been coaching since the 90s, and I don't know exactly when he started, but just his ability to adapt to something, I thought that spoke volumes too, man, because, a lot of the older coaches, it's hard for them to adapt in general, in a normal year, like the NIL or whatever, like the landscape of football. And I just thought his ability to adapt and just have grace for himself, hey, look, bro, we ain't got no answers. And some of this stuff's going to be jacked up. We're just going to keep navigating. And I had a lot of respect for him going into it. Obviously had never had being around him, but the way he handled that, and with the George Floyd and a lot of those different things during that time, man, was like, it was a true professional, man. And something I'm grateful that I got to experience.
100%. So let's talk about this. You've been a hot name and a hot coach for a while. You've moved through the ranks fairly quickly, right? I've been able to see it from day one. Like I said, Rice, BYU, Arizona, Oregon State, and Baylor. You're only 34. That's 5 schools, right? So I want to ask you, how do you navigate moving around as a coach and having the family that you have? You have 2 sons and a wife. How do you say, hey, this is where we're at one year, we're over here the next year, while still doing what you need to do? Because you had those vows, right? I was there.
Yep.
I heard the vows. And now you have 2 beautiful young sons. How do you piece that together? Because we've always heard coaches' wives are basically like single moms because you're gone so much.
Yeah. I think it's twofold. I think the first is when you're in the off season, or when you're in a stable, situation where you're not in a position to move or anything. I think just being super intentional with the time that you do have. I think as we've gotten older, we've found a way to navigate and find time when we didn't used to be able to find it. Like she'll bring them to practice, and they'll come to the end of practice and run around with me on the field for a while, and I'll get to hug them and and play catch with them, whatever. I think that's something that we've kind of learned to navigate and how to make work. And I mean, our values are the same, when in regard, like we want to be great. We want to be great spouses and we want to be great parents. And so she knows how important that is for me. And I think that's reciprocated. So I see the sacrifice that she makes when she's got to rally them up and get them dressed and all that to just maybe see me for 10 minutes on a Monday or Tuesday, you know what I mean? And so now when I do get the free time, I think it's easy for me to be like, man, I can make a sacrifice or whatever. I do want to go do this or do that, but I'm grateful for my wife and what she does. And so I think that helps. But then also just I liken being a coach to being a pastor. And the reason why I say it is for me, it's ministry. Like I feel like I'm in people's lives, not just the players, but the people that I'm in a building with, and I'm making an impact. And my wife has been able to see the impact that I've made on people. She sees the text message sometimes that I get out of nowhere from a former player, or, she hears from the wives like, oh, I know your husband did this for my husband when he was not, and he was down in the spirits or whatever. Like she know whether I tell her and share that or she just hears it from, her circle or whatever. I think she knows that when I wake up every morning, it's not just to go win a bunch of football games, to say I'm the greatest running backs coach or greatest football coach of all time. Like it's true ministry. I'm really there to like make an impact on people's lives. And so why I say it's like a pastor, people think pastors just show up on Sundays and that's like the extent of their job. They go to the hospital and pray for people. They got to do funerals. They do marriage counseling, or they just, they're just there. They're always kind of stretched and emotionally attached to a lot of people, and to me, it's a very similar, man, just the way we have to pour into people if you want to do it the way that I believe God's called me to do it. And so I think her sacrifice is she's willing to make it because she knows that there's real fruit that I'm trying to attain.
She's working in your purpose.
Yes. And so does that make it easy? No. But I think it just allows her to support, to support and back it, and to know, okay, I know when you wake up every day, God's calling you to go do this, and I'm fine with that. As long as when you do get some time, we still need that, at our house as well. And so I think as we've gotten older, we both kind of settled into that. I've been better. I've been more intentional. She's been better, and it's just a constant journey. And it's like anything, like you have to communicate it. The good and the bad, and then you also have to be intentional in order to work together to make it work. And so I think the biggest thing and the biggest advice I have for coaches, younger coaches and younger couples that are in this profession, is you have to map it all out before you go. And I saw an email from this was like 2013. I was scrolling through my emails, and there was a deal between my wife and I. And so our convention, the coaches convention, had like the last day of it landed on her birthday. And so this is our first birthday of hers that we were together and I was a coach. Yeah. And so I remember we got back and my flight got back late or something like that. And by the time we get back, there was really nothing we could do. And I was still a GA. I wasn't making a bunch of money. And so I remember we ended up I think we went to like Dave and Buster's or something. That was the only place that we could go and eat. And she was okay with it, but I could tell that, it was, it kind of got under her skin a little bit, just this is our first birthday, what I mean, that we've been able to spend together. And it was just kind of anticlimactic, what I mean? And so she was cool. Like, her, man, she didn't like make me feel terrible about it or whatever, but I could tell something was wrong. And then so I ended up dropping her back off at home or something like that. And she emailed me the next day, like this long email. This is what I found in my phone a couple of weeks ago. And it was just, her just sharing that she supports me in this and that. Just as sometimes I need to make sure I account for her with this. Like she'll go wherever this profession leads me. She doesn't want to make me feel bad about handling obligations, but we need to be on the same page and work together if we're going to make this work. And so it was just funny kind of looking back on that, man. And that was kind of, I'm grateful for it because she kind of like set the stage and set the foundation for things that we didn't know this was going to play out the way it has up to this point, man. And I'm grateful for that. But I think you have to have a woman, or spouse who's in it, and they draw a hard line to keep you accountable. But at the same time, they're very understanding, and they're willing to make the sacrifices necessary for you to do what you need to do.
Yeah, no, that's big. Because I know, and from when we played to you being a coach now, there's some coaches that live at that facility, and we know they got 3-4 kids, been married for 20, 30 years. Maybe that's why they end up at the facility all the time, because they don't want to be home.
No doubt.
Like that's a real thing. Like, it's like, bro, are you ever gonna go home? We go up there, we train you there, we at practice you there, we come back, we playing pool you there. So I think that this generation of coaches, and there's still some of the older ones, but the younger coaches, head coaches and position coaches alike, have started doing better and understanding. Just because you spend 4 more hours at the facility doesn't mean the game plan is going to be better. Do what you need to do, get your work done, and when your work is done, just like we did in the weight room, leave. Just don't sit around for 30 more minutes picking up weights and putting them down. Don't sit up there for 2 more hours looking at the same 30 plays that you looked at and you're not critiquing nothing. So I will say, just knowing you, Sam, GJ, that there is a changing of the guard of when the work is done, and you have family at the house. Now, if you ain't got nobody at the crib, feel free.
Yeah.
But I think a lot more coaches are understanding of that you're burning your guys out. And it works when you're winning. It does work when you're winning, right? Guys being burnt out. But as soon as that first sign of struggle comes, and you know that your wife is at home mad at you, right? Because you get to tell her, hey, but we're winning. And look what we're doing. When she's looking at you take that L and you not there, like that, I know that can be a problem. And obviously, Virginia, she's from where I'm from. Good girl, good lady. Got a good one. And I know she's going to hold you and the boys down. And like I said, you're one of the lucky ones, because everybody's wife, as you know, is an understanding. No matter if they're up there, there's some guys that are up there less than everybody else, depending on what staff they're on, and it's still not enough time for, some people's relationships. So for you to have what you have is definitely a blessing.
Absolutely.
I know you talked about working in purpose, and we talked about with the family and your kids. What are some of the things that you try and instill in those players, right? That's not even football, right? We understand that football is football and it'll end. But so what are those things that you try and, really talk to those guys about? And before the time that they leave, because we hear a lot of coaches, I'm going to change your boy into a young man, and we know that's not going on. It's only, I'm going to change your boy into the best football player I can make him for my selfish reasons. What are the things that you instill in your players?
I think just having substance in a relationship. Number one, I don't allow them to just shut me completely off. I'm not saying I go dig and make them super uncomfortable, but I meet with them one-on-one. Obviously there's certain things that people aren't going to open up in a public setting, open up about in a public setting. Every guy in my room, I'm always going to meet with them, if not multiple times a week, at least once a week, where I'm just checking in on them, hey man, what's going on? Hey, how has that been? And this and that. And usually when we talk, it's not about football, and so just making sure they're making good decisions, and just their overall quality of life is where where it should be, and so that's like a simple thing that I do. But another thing I do is always, when we start our meetings, I always kind of start the meetings with an icebreaker, and it's a deal where I'll pick one guy in the room, and between all of us in the room, we'll ask that person 2 questions as a room. So sometimes I might lead it. Hey man, what's the qualities you're looking for in a wife? Whatever. It could be something super simple. It could be, hey, what's your favorite restaurant to eat at? Whatever it may be. So always pick one guy in our room, because I want us to all get to know each other, but I want to create a safe space and a healthy environment for conversation. Sometimes it's super surface level. Sometimes it gets deep. But I think you present it in a way that whoever that person is, if they're comfortable, then other people can build off of it and and learn from their experience. But if not, everybody feels a part of it, and we're getting to know everybody. So I do that, but at the end, so I do that every day, where I pick one different person every day, and then but every day they get to ask me 2 questions, and so you know, when you first get, like when I first get to a place, it's usually real surface level at the beginning. Hey, what's what's your favorite type of pizza? You know, what's your favorite shoes you have? But then as time goes and all of the kind of surface level questions have already been asked, then it gets deeper, and so I think it's appropriate too, because it's not really natural for somebody to just, you know, you've been knowing them for a week to go straight into like super deep stuff. So I like it this way because it kind of builds up into like they've gotten to know me and all of that. Now it's like, hey, coach, how'd you know your wife was the one? You know, hey, how is it being a dad and a coach? You know, what was your feeling when you first thought, you know, when you first heard you were gonna have a boy? You know, and so these are things, man, where I'm able to kind of use their questions to like impart things that are valuable, you know, and I really feel like that's part of my ministry to players is, you know, like I said, I grew up in a single parent, you know, household in a rough environment, you know, back in St. Louis. I'm able to share my life experiences with them, but also I'm growing and showing them, you know, you don't have to be subject to those environments or whatever your situation was, you know, and I'm real transparent about being a man. Like, this is not me as a football coach I'm talking. This is me as a man. This is me as AJ Steward. And I think they appreciate that, and they really get to know me for who I am, and not just how well I could teach them wide zone or who I am as a pass protection teacher. It's like, no, these are my values, man. This is what means more to me than anything. And so those are just simple ways I do it. I'm never gonna waste an opportunity to share, you know, substance with my guys, man. And so those are the best parts of my day, when I get to, you know, sit down and have real talk. And sometimes it is about football, but it's deeper, you know, and I tell them, like, a lot of my buzzwords or a lot of my deep disciplines that we talk about within the realm of football, they carry over to life. Like we talk about, hey, having great in pass pro, we need to have a good foundation. This is like, I'm teaching you about life. Like, in life, we have to have a foundation. We can't just have a hodgepodge of different values and different things like that and think we're going to have success in life. Like, we have to have core principles, core foundation, and then we can build on those. And so that's just a way that those are like simple ways. I always want to be organic. I never want to be, you know, just like make it seem uncomfortable or make it seem forced. You know, like forced.
Players can feel that. You were a player. You know, when you went to the convention, they told you to ask this question to get the room better. Like, you know when that's happening to you.
Nah, for sure.
Player.
Sometimes we'll stay in the moment too. Like when we do the questions, like sometimes it'll get real, and I'm like, man, we need to stay right here. You know, they'll ask a question, or they'll, you know, something that I don't want to just speed up, you know, and all of that. And so for me, I just, you know, I'm really intentional about that, about sharing life. And to me, and I believe in it, and my players, I think, will tell you this, because they know who I am as a man, and because they know I actually care for them. And this is not like a, you know, just an exercise to kind of, you know, get some knowledge about them. It's like, I truly want them to know me, and I want to know them. I think they play harder. And even if we miss, you know, we don't get to the last 5 minutes of, you know, I was going to show them a drill we were going to do that day in practice. So if we don't get to that because of, you know, something got real and we had an opportunity to have some substance in our meeting, I think it's worth the sacrifice for what you get out of it in the long run.
5 minutes of a drill ain't going to last more than when that drill ends.
No doubt.
That substance is going to last them for the rest of their life. And people think it's so cliche, but you wouldn't be doing what you was doing if you didn't have somebody putting some substance into what your current situation was, your past situation was, and trying to create that future one. So I know we had a question where we was going to talk about the most impactful coaches, but I know you went into Sumlin a little bit. But so we'll change it up. A lot of the old coaches have been retiring, right? Mm-hmm. The jobs are changing. So I'll just give you a name, and you give me a couple of things that comes to your mind when you hear it. Nick Saban.
Man, just consistency, elite, you know, just to be able to do it at that level for a long, you know, that long of a period of time. And I don't know if it's possible to ever do it again, you know, to be honest. Just tremendous amount of respect, you know, for his approach, man, and to get, especially in this day and age, you know, with the players changing and all of that, to be able to still get guys to buy into to wanting to be coached hard and to seeing a value in that, man. I think that's, aside from the championships and all that, I really believe that is a a testament to what he stands for, is that, with everybody else is struggling with certain issues with players, they're still bought into, I think he's adapted well. I think he did adapt well to kind of, he kind of got rid of some of the things that maybe weren't as necessary. But I really applaud and respect that guys wanted to be coached hard by him, and for that long of a period of time.
100%. Bill Belichick.
I would say in the same, a lot of the same things, and even more so, maybe in a lot of ways, even more, incredible to me that he got NFL guys to kind of buy into, and I would liken him to like a Greg Popovich, where NBA is about ISO ball and everybody's for themselves, and, promos and all of that. And you just look at the Spurs and they're just like swinging the ball around, and like, if you're a Hall of Famer, you'll still be a Hall of Famer and whatever. I think that's cool about Belichick, is that he gets guys to come in and they buy into a system. And obviously the last couple of years, he didn't have probably the success that he wanted to, but he sustained that amount of success. And just the stories you hear about like Tom Brady, like how he coached Tom Brady, man, that's incredible to me, man. Just once again, there's certain anomalies in this profession who they're able to stick to their guns and because of their resume and because of the respect that they've garnered, from the players and the coaches, they're able to just continue to be themselves, and people buy into that. And they're, and those are kind of necessary things in order to have long-standing success, as, in the way that they did.
100%. Those two guys were very similar. Another guy that did it in a very different way, Pete Carroll.
Oh, yeah.
And NFL, way different than them. What comes to your mind when Pete?
Man, he made, and I don't know that they're all of these guys' ages. I think Pete's the oldest.
40, the two were 72, and Bill was 71. Nick and Peter 72, and Bill was 71.
If you didn't look up their Wikipedia page or whatever, you would think Pete Carroll is like 50 years old.
Bro, I'm telling you.
And that's like, to me, obviously he's had success at every level. He's done it all, man. But to me, like, the thing I will always remember about him is just the energy he's able to coach at. I always say, like, if I can't approach the game like that anymore when I get older, like, I don't want to coach. And I think he legitimately, all the way up into the last game of the season, this past season, he looked like he was having fun. Not just out there. He was like the same guy he was at USC.
Running around throwing. You see the highlights of him doing this, that, throwing the ball at practice. Like, he ain't just walking around. He's having a good time.
He's like to me like the LeBron James of coaches, as far as like how can he still have this type of energy at the age that he's at?
Bro, we 34 and I'll be tired.
I know. Oh yeah, I know. That's what's so remarkable to me, man. And obviously his resume speaks for itself, but like, I think that's what separates him from anybody, is the energy, man, and just how he can ignite an organization or a program by leading with energy. You know what I mean? By setting the tone from an energy standpoint. I don't know if any other coach, at that age and at that level, as long as he's done it, has been able to accomplish that. And that's to me like the most remarkable trait that he possessed, outside of, how great of a coach he was and all that.
Exactly. And this is the last one. We'll end here. AJ Steward, and why he's not only one of the best young coaches, black coaches, position coaches, but why he's one of the best coaches in the nation. What makes you that?
I think I love people, number one. Like, I enjoy being around my players. I enjoy pouring into people and pouring into my players. I love teaching. I like seeing guys, whether they're, the walk-on or they already came to me as a 4-star, just helping them get to their ceiling, and knowing that I had a small impact on the big picture of their life, not just as a player, but as a person. And I think my ability to teach and to develop has been what's been allowed me to separate myself, in the profession. just the way I do it on a day-to-day basis, not cutting corners, not undercutting people, man, but just loving folks up and being where my feet are, and just being consistent daily with my approach to my players, but also just being intentional and loving to the people that God's blessed me to be in a building with, at each one of these stops. And so I think those I would say are my best qualities is, number one, being a teacher, and then number two, just the purpose that people feel when I step in the building every day. That it's not like I'm checking the time, punching the clock, getting ready to do my 9 to 5. It's like, man, this dude is grateful to be here. He loves doing what he does, and he just loves being around people and being a part of something, bigger than himself.
Man, and I can 100% back that up. The talks that we have, the things that I know, obviously behind the scenes, from either a contract or how much money's been made or what job might be offered, to literally know for 100% fact, none of that matters to you. It only matters about how many people that you're impacting, how many people that you can change the course of their life, how many people that you can start from here, and just like I said, just that little impact. So, man, I appreciate everything that you said, the time you spent. You dropped so many gems, bro. And just keep doing your thing, bro. I already know in the next 3 to 5 years, I'm going to have that Coach Fives job. And then y'all don't know what that Coach Fives job is. But when this man become a head coach, just check out my job and what I'll be doing. And y'all know what that Coach Fives is.
That's love. I appreciate you, man. Appreciate the opportunity. Always good chopping up with you. Know that.
Yes, sir, man. Tell the family I said, hey, love them. Love you, bro. Have a good one.
Love you, bro. Appreciate you.
Yep.